So that's where they had the boot camp in Corpus Christi.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a big military town still, or is it?
I'm not sure. There is a big aircraft carrier museum park there now.
Okay.
Back in those days, it was they were training cadets to fly. It was just a training camp, and that's still a big naval base, I think.
And so you guys shipped off from Corpus Christi, and then did you go around?
We went by train to San Diego.
A military train full of cadets.
Yeah.
Full of military, yeah. Coronado Island was there. I know when we went from downtown San Diego, I think we were in Mission Bay or somewhere. Anyway, we went across. They didn't have the bridge, the big bridge they have now. They had a ferry that went over to Coronado Island. Mm-hmm. And we were in barracks down near the water somewhere. I'm not sure where it was. I know that when we went from Corpus Christi, Texas, to San Diego, all of a sudden we had cold nights. The nights weren't cold in San
They were humid in Corpus Christi, where it was already.
But in San Diego, it was so cold at night, we were chattering, you know. We couldn't get used to those cold nights in the middle of summer. We went to Port Hueneme, which is north of L.A. a little ways.
North of L.A.?
Mm-hmm. That's where a shipping out place for troop ships.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Port Hueneme.
And from there, did you ever go through Hawaii, or did you just go straight out across
No, we
the Pacific?
went to Hawaii and stayed there for, it seems like close to a month.
Wow.
Getting outfitted and whatever little training we had. But mostly we just wandered around. It was fun being in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Seeing all those pineapple fields, they're so beautiful.
Did you go in the water and were you
Oh, yeah,
free
we
to go
swam
swimming and all that?
Our first casualty in our outfit was a guy that was driving off a cliff into the water, into the waves, and like an idiot, he went between the waves and broke his neck.
Oh.
We were diving into the waves as they come up.
Oh, yeah.
Deep water, but all of a sudden it was shallow.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it was our only casualty during the war.
Wow. Was it in waves in
Well, we
Hawaii?
had a couple of guys that drank bad liquor, made their own liquor, and drank it
and
and
they
died.
went blind or
that
something?
way. Well, a lot of them went hospitalized.
Oh, wow.
One guy died. Well, we shipped out of Pearl Harbor. You know, that's where all the sunken battleships were. And we went through some, well, we didn't have much training there. We just wandered around town. They let us go.
Yeah.
We were being outfitted to go, to be shipped out. So we had a lot of spare time. So we wandered through the pineapple fields and went to the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. It's the first time I ever saw an escalator. Royal Hotel. And they had a beautiful beach there with all these people swimming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was good duty being in, and you could have all the pineapple you wanted for breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever. I guess they had so much, and it was a surplus. They could, you know, the best pineapple fields in Hawaii.
It must have been a big shift in scenery and lifestyle the second you got on the boat to take off and cross become a Neptunian society, or what was that process like?
Neptune.
Neptune?
Well, it's when you cross the equator, not the equator.
The international date
The
line.
international date line. But it's usually they have an initiation of some sort. Well, hell, we were thousands of men on one ship. They weren't going to have any initiation for us. We were just a cargo load.
Yeah.
But at least we got inducted into the society.
Did they do anything where they announced it on the ship, or
Yeah.
it was just on the loudspeakers or something? They said, "Hey, everybody's now officially part of the Neptunian."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me tell you, back in those days, you know, you got that slow roll constantly.
Yeah.
The ocean is never quiet. You always your ship is always rolling. Mm-hmm. In fact, when you get off the ship, it feels funny because you're not rolling.
Because you got sea legs after
Well,
a
especially
while,
if you've been on it for 30 days.
Yeah, you lose your sea legs when you got it. And you walk crooked when you get off on the sidewalk.
How long were you on the boat between Hawaii and Tinian?
40 days and 40 nights.
40 days and 40 nights.
It was a long trip. Taking saltwater showers and crowded.
Oh man! And then also How many? What's a bunk like in a boat like that? 5 people on a bunk? 6 people?
No, 5 high. They have these pipe stanchions and they're on hinges. It's like an army cot. It's stretched canvas. They're comfortable, and you're down there with hundreds of men, and so you have these big blower systems that constantly blow a wind over you, and it's noisy. You hear that all you hear is the blowers going.
Yeah.
And the scariest I ever was in my life, probably, except for that time I fell overboard, was in Saipan Harbor during the big turkey shoot. When the war was going on, we pulled right into the harbor and anchored, and this big air battle was going on. Anti-aircraft guns and planes shooting one down. We shot down 300 Japanese planes during the turkey. That's what they call it, the turkey shoot. Because they had run out of experienced Japanese pilots, and they had these recruits flying their planes, so they just slaughtered them. And they were, the Zero is a very maneuverable plane, a little fast acrobatic plane.
Is that the Japanese plane?
Yeah. They were hard to shoot down because they were so quick and agile. Ours were sluggish in relation to theirs. But ours were heavily armed and armored. Theirs were not armored. They were heavily armed but not armored. So they could fly circles around our planes. Mm-hmm. But all of the experienced pilots then had been killed, so they had recruits driving their planes. So we slaughtered 300 Japanese airplanes. That's why they call it the turkey shoot.
What did it sound like?
It was mostly, I guess, anti-aircraft was mostly what we heard. But we weren't allowed to go topside and watch anything because the air was full of shrapnel. The anti-aircraft bursts way up in the sky, and then all this broken metal comes floating down.
Oh God, that's terrifying.
So they said you have to be under deck.
We had to stay below. We weren't allowed to go up and watch the plane fights and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, there's probably stray bullets and things like that too that are flying around.
Stray bullets and shrapnel falling out of the sky. So they said no. I said, yeah, but we might be sunk and we're trapped down here. I said, bullshit. You cannot come topside. So we didn't. But a narrow passageway going for like 100 men, and a narrow passageway, one to go topside. And if they hit us, we're doomed. Most of them.
Well, you weren't friends with the army captain yet.
I was just one of the kids trapped below deck.
Yeah.
Listening to all the noise and wondering, oh shit, I hope they don't sink us.
Tinian.
Tinian. It was famous because that's where they dropped the first atomic bomb from.
Yeah.
And where all the B-29s went over to Tokyo. They launched off of the Saipan and Guam and Tinian. 300 planes at a time, filled with firebombs. They just devastated Tokyo. I think one night.
300 planes, and each plane carries how many firebombs?
Well, I don't know how many, but a lot. Their weight when they left Tinian, or the Marianas anywhere, was half gasoline. It was so far there and back, and a lot of times they couldn't get back because they ran out of gasoline.
Wow,
so they
just land in the ocean?
Crash.
Wow.
That's why we had to take Iwo Jima to build an an emergency strip on Iwo Jima to save all our B-29s that we were losing. We lost a lot of them on takeoff, too.
Yeah, I read that.
What happened on takeoff?
They were so heavy they couldn't get off the strip. The strip was 2 miles long, and then it quit. And there's a little valley that went down like this, and another couple miles, or maybe 3 miles, there were foothills just at the edge of the ocean. And we would go out there and watch them. They would go down. They would hold their brakes, rev their engines full speed, and then gradually start to roll. And 2 miles later, they were at the end of the strip, and they either took off or sunk. And some would sink. I mean, it's amazing how many.
Would it
planes-
just blow up and you'd see a fire?
It didn't blow
fire
up.
smoke.
They were loaded with fire bombs, incendiaries. We didn't use explosives over Tokyo.
So they would just catch on fire and you'd see smoke.
Well, no, we would sit out there. This was pretty late in the war, really. We would watch them go down, and they would go off the strip, raise their landing gear, and then sing down this little valley, and then hard as they could to get over the foothills. Sometimes they couldn't get over the foothills. They just kept going down. They were overloaded. They were too heavy.
Wow.
And when they burned, they really burned because we were told their weight was half gasoline.
So that's a lot of fire. That's a lot of.
And fire bombs to boot.
Yeah, that's a lot of firebomb and kindling in that box.
That's an expensive. I mean, that's an expensive box, but then it's an expensive cargo too.
Well, yeah, and a lot of men died. They were burned alive in those planes that didn't get off this. That crashed down in the valley.
Would you guys try to help them, or was it too dangerous?
Oh, we couldn't get. We were way off. We were just watching them from a distance.
Gotcha.
No, we would sit there and just. And we knew they were going to do it occasionally, and it just made you sick because there were a few. They'd hit the ground, and then a couple of guys just run like hell to get away, and then the whole thing just blazed off flames like you wouldn't believe. And the other planes were already committed and going through that smoke. And God damn it, your gut would get sick, to see these poor bastards. You know they're a plane load of guys burning alive.
Yeah. God.
Oh jeez, and this is not even like
This is
this
at
isn't
the
even
airfield.
with the enemy. This is
Yeah.
this is at your home on your home airfield.
So how did that strip get built? These, like,
Bulldozers and graders and coral rock mostly, and then concrete.
Yeah, because there's like two phases of building it, right? Right? Like first you build a strip from nothing,
Well,
and then like the engineer corps comes in, or
the Army built the big strip. The Navy, we call the CBs, the Construction Battalion, they built our strip. A couple months before the Army ever got there.
yeah,
We were in business flying. We were mostly like just a place for squadrons, Navy squadrons that were coming through,
yeah,
going somewhere else.
yeah.
We were like a motel that we had several. We had a runway, good sized runway with a lot of parking pads and mechanic shops and gasoline and all kinds of service stuff. And we took care of our naval squadrons that were coming through. The B-29s were strictly Army. They didn't have the Air Corps then. They had what they called it the Army Air Corps. It wasn't a separate service.
Okay.
But with those things, they were big planes. And they had lots and lots and lots of them. I think there were 3 runways on Tinian alone, all pointing into the trade wind.
Really?
The wind was
Wow.
always from the same direction. And always down into this, the strip next to us anyway, went down into this little valley. I don't know about the other strips
Wow.
that were too far away from us to see.
Yeah, they had. Did they ever have air raids on the island?
All the time. For a year after we were there, we were still having air raids. 1 or 2 planes at a time. Mostly harassment.
Yeah.
They didn't use it for anything. But that one lucky time, when they almost got me. That was way toward the end of the war. Well, the war was almost over, and that little Japanese plane sneaked in, and well, they didn't sneak in. We knew where they're coming. It's just that I didn't get up. I fell back asleep.
Well,
You fell back asleep?
Well, they announced over the PA. There's this big PA system that starts off, and then and always in the 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the PA system would come on, and they'd say 2 bogeys, 150 miles out, estimated time of arrival 20 minutes or whatever it was. I said, well, no hurry, and then I fell back asleep. We had a foxhole about this wide and real long and real deep, straight sides. It's in coral rock, cut out of coral rock, and that's where whenever we had an air raid, we'd just walk down into the
pretty much a trench.
In this trench, and we were safe, cozy and safe down there in the underground. And we've done it. I must have done it 25 times before that. But this particular time, I just said, oh, it'll be 15 minutes before they get here. So all of a sudden, I accidentally fell back asleep. Everybody else got out and went in the foxhole. You put on your shoes, you put on your helmet, take your gas mask, and you walk down in the trench. Well, I was sitting there with my gas mask and my helmet and all, hanging on the post that holds up the mosquito netting. And all of a sudden, I heard this great big crash, and I opened my eyes, and all I could see was flames like 20 feet tall.
All around you, so your tent was on fire.
No. It wasn't all around. It was like from here to my mailbox from me.
Okay.
It was not that close. But when I opened my eyes, I could see all these this huge blaze and all these airplane parts flying around. They had dropped, lucky hit and blew up 3 of our planes on the ground.
Oh, wow.
And I guess the bombs that they hit them with, plus the gasoline in the planes and everything, made a hell of a racket. And the first thing I saw was my eyes were open, and there it was, like in the movies, huge flames and airplane parts flying, still going up.
Wow.
What'd you do?
I tore down my mosquito netting, and I tore down the screen door off the Quonset, and I ran buck naked and barefooted out the end of our Quonset hut, and our Quonset hut was here, and the trench was here, and I was sleeping here. So I had to go out like that and turn around and come back.
You just jumped in.
Yeah, no helmet, no shoes, no nothing, just buck naked and barefooted, and I dove, and all these faces were looking up at me. And the sky was brilliantly lit, still, from the flame.
Wow.
And they just caught me and lowered me down in the trench. Cut my feet all up, though, on that coral rock.
They almost got you.
But it got my attention.
Let me ask you this, Grandpa. Do you still sleep in to this day? One day a lot.
No, but for 2 or 3 years after the war was over, and I could hear one of these old army trucks start up with a still first gear, it sounded like that goddamn siren going off. And I would automatically, that post-traumatic stress syndrome, because that was my PTS.
Yeah?
Was just that noise of the old siren just going off.
Wow.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. Well, my war duty wasn't all that dangerous, or it didn't seem so at the time. But there were some air incidents.
Yeah.
Well, it was such an intense fire. I guess I could feel it all that distance. Or maybe it was me flushing. I don't know. I could feel it, though. I certainly remember it to this day.
Wow.
Very clearly. I got all kinds of perks. As a yeoman, it was really a good job.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was going to turn out so nice. But my skipper, he was a four-stripe captain, a big dog in the Navy. But I think he was a lawyer or a CPA or something in real life as a civilian. He was the nicest guy in the world. He and I got to be real good buddies. He wanted me everywhere. I drove his Jeep, went with him, did all sorts of things for him.
So you would drive his Jeep for him?
Yeah.
And then he'd also let you take it if you wanted to, like, use it to get across town or
Yeah,
something?
it was always parked right there.
You had the keys. Yeah.
Well, he was not a disciplinarian.
Oh, so well, how was he a four-stripe general? I thought you had to be I thought you had to be a very, like, staff sergeant type.
And during inspections and stuff like that, he was very proper, and everybody was terrified of him, of course. This is the routine in the Navy. You got to keep the enlisted men scared. You got to keep your troops more afraid of you than they are of the enemy. That's the rule.
Right.
You don't dare back out fighting the enemy because you have to face that officer.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
People are willing to die not to get their asses hewn out by their officers. It's amazing. But it works. All kinds of armies and navies do that.
Wow.
They make you more afraid of the officers than you are of the enemy. And the disciplinary method of doing that is brutal sometimes, especially in boot camp when they're first turning. They treat you like a dirty dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody
Fits
should
in.
deserve to be treated that way, but once you go through boot camp, you're pretty well trained. It doesn't take long to get your attention.